Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for everybody being here. When we start out, Rob, you want to lead us in the pledge?
I'd be happy to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. You can take your seats and we'll go around and introduce. We got a really big group, so we'll go around and introduce our guests. We'll start with Rena introducing the guests at the student table and Rob.
So we have our.
Hi, guys.
Okay, we have our inbound exchange student Maureen here. We have our outbound exchange student from next year here. She'll be joining us, Olivia Gander. And then we have February Rotary Students of the Month, Lyden Clifford and Sonora Vindy.
Thank you. Nobody at the back table, nobody at this table. Be there. Yes. So Diane, you want to introduce?
All my guests,
Yeah.
well, there's one on Zoom.
Oh,
There's one on Zoom, Jeremy Childers, excuse me, welcome Jeremy. And then here in the room, we have our speaker, David Irvin, and our friend Doug Brusa.
and yeah, like I was saying, big group and a lot more of our regulars online, so usually don't do a separate welcome to them, but thank you guys for showing up online too. That would put us probably close to 45. But I think we're about 37 here in the room. So busy day, big group, so try to keep the talk down while we're doing the presentation if you can. This is our first meeting in February, and again, our regular February weather, just like we had our regular January weather. I have it on authority that that's going to change, and so for those of you with wells, at least we'll get some rain hopefully this weekend, and you get a good excuse to sit on your keister and watch some football. February's theme is Peace and Conflict Prevention Month. So aptly named month. Of course, all of them should be Peace and Conflict Prevention Month, but that's our focus for February. Our special thanks to our greeters, Rob and Guy. Thank you guys. And Tanya for again setting up our lunch today. It looks great. Is it Local Ocean? Local Ocean. So thank you to Local Ocean as well. And John for our IT support, and Julie is standing in for treasurer today. So thank you guys all. It's great to see everyone again, enjoying the weather, and we're excited today to welcome David Irvin. He's the director of the OSU. I always mispronounce it. It's Guin. That's why I always mispronounce it. I should always just go with the one I know it isn't. I always want to say it. So again, Guin Library at the Hatfield Marine Science Center. And with that, I ask you to please join me in welcoming Diane. She's going to be doing the introduction for David.
Thank you, Brian. David Irvin joined Oregon State University Library in 2024 as director of Guin Library at Hatfield Marine Science Center. Previously, he worked as the head of reference and research services at New Mexico State University, where he also had jobs like liaison librarian. I lost my place. Government documents coordinator and patent and trademark resource center representative. And he's going to be talking to us today about patents. David got his start in libraries as a computer tech, as an undergraduate library assistant in 2001 at the Moody Library at Baylor University. In the mild aughts, he wrote for 3 newspapers and returned in 2008 to libraries at McLennan Community College, where he managed the computer lab and electronic resources. During his time at MCC, he earned his MSIS Informatics from the University of Northern Texas. David serves as the representative, I lost my place again, as a representative for OSU Patent and Trademark Resource Center, a USPTO affiliated research service, as well as the editor of the Journal of the Patent and Trademark Resource Center Association. I'm so happy David is here. Please join me in welcoming David Irvin.
Thank you, Diane, for the invitation and for everyone for coming out. Really happy to be here. This is a pretty new service, and I'm going to talk about that in just a bit. I've got some IT support over here, which I also very much appreciate. I'll signal time to time. Yeah, so I've got a number of slides, and how much time?
3 hours.
Okay. So we're stretching.
About 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
All right, that was an excellent, about 20 minutes. Okay, good to know. I started in business actually at a startup in San Antonio back in 2002. We didn't include that in the update in my current biography, but that's where I got my start because my undergrad was actually in computers, information science, and business management. And a lot of the career steps I've taken over the years have been somewhat business tangential. And I'm going to demonstrate that here right at the top. I'm super happy to be here in Newport and to bring this service to this community. By a show of hands, how many of you know that Guin Library at Hatfield is a public library? Okay, that's good. You got a lot of hands in the air. I was inspired recently by Diane's presentation about her career. So I was thinking about my own and kind of where it's taken me. As you can see, the largest jump happens between number 6 and 7. That was the most recent jump from southern New Mexico to Oregon. But yeah, I wrote for some newspapers, mostly in business journalism, covered the automotive business over in Alabama, and the poultry business in Arkansas. So I saw a lot of different things over the years. Two of the things I saw, which left a deep impression with me. The images at the top are of New Orleans after Katrina. I wasn't in New Orleans, but I was close enough to see folks who were escaping that disaster. And a few months after it happened, I went there to see it with my own eyes. And the scale of the devastation has impressed me and stuck with me ever since. And a more personal event that I witnessed, really, I was living on a ranch near a river in Central Texas during the Wimberley flood of 2015, which was a devastating flood. And I began to have this sort of understanding of the need for resilience thinking, that these disasters can happen, and what do you do in a situation where that happens. On the left-hand side, you'll see an image of the Guin Library. That's where I'm director now. We support the marine science studies that occur out at Hatfield. The students are a big part of our focus, and the other researchers who are in the laboratories. So we're always trying to make that a better process for everyone to make sure they can get what they need. The image on the right is a lucky shot I got a few months ago when there was a beautiful rainbow over the Gladys Valley Marine Science Building, which is, you may be familiar, the newest building out there. Some of the things that some of the programs that we're providing, we have a library of things, which is really equipment, games, things like that to make people feel at home. We have Oregon State Parks passes that you can check out. Book club kits that you could take to your group. And if you wanted to read a particular book and discuss it, kind of dig into some ideas, we have those. We've also had a recent reading of Braiding Sweetgrass, beautiful book. In workshops, I didn't get an image of it on here, but we had native plants gardening workshop last year. We're going to try to do something similar this year. So we're trying to invite the community in for special events. And bringing visibility to resilience thinking and supporting people where they are. So people are facing anxiety or mental health issues. We want to make sure that we have resources that also address them. This was a program we put together with an individual from the EPA. So if you might be aware that at Hatfield, there's a number of federal agencies and state agencies as well. So they're part of our constituents, and we work across all potential boundaries, and we try to expand access throughout. How does this connect with what I'm going to talk about next? Well, the IP, intellectual property, is a central component of how the U.S. economy works. So protecting ideas, but also protecting brands, has a profound economic effect. So you can think of it through the lens of economic development. And there's a number of things that are occurring here on the coast, like energy, like a Packwave, different studies into resilient communities, infrastructure upgrades, and of course science at Hatfield that may all touch patents or intellectual property in some way. When we think about funding, those kinds of things going forward, being able to propose that there might be an intellectual property capture at the end of that process to a granting organization, for instance, it could move the needle in obtaining funds. This is a report from the USPTO, I believe it's 2019, and it just demonstrates the economic impact. So at the time, the U.S. economy was around 21 trillion, talking about the GDP, and about 7.7 trillion of that was IP focused or IP intensive, IP being intellectual property. So you can see a third of the U.S. economy relies somewhat on patents or trademarks or copyrights, or also could be trade secrets. Okay. State of Oregon had a patent and trademark office up until around 2013, 2014 out at Lewis and Clark. That was closed down, and until last year, or I guess the end of 2024, there wasn't one in Oregon for that entire 10-year stretch. When I interviewed for this position, it was one of the things I mentioned. So at New Mexico State University, I ran this office for about 8 years. And simultaneous to us getting the designation from USPTO, so did Multnomah County Libraries up in Portland. So we have a state connection now within Oregon that's really fruitful. Sometimes the question comes up, why libraries? Why are libraries involved in this kind of work? And it really comes down to two things. One of them is the fact that we're researchers. Professionally researchers, we always look at new ways to find information, try to know where that information is, and the best ways to categorize or classify that information. And the second is that we're committed as librarians to equitable distribution of information. So that this should flow easily across the community. An example of that is there's a government program called the Federal Depository Library Program, very old program, in which the federal government has sent out federal documents across the entire United States with the idea that if you're paying taxes, you should have information about what the government's doing. Similarly, in the 1970s, they came up with the Patent Depository Library Program, which distributed physical patents across libraries in the United States, so that folks who were in communities like this, who had a good idea, but didn't know how to take the first step, could go into a library and find a patent and do research on their idea. So that's very similar to what's happening now, except that now everything's digitized and we're more of a service point where we can assist folks to find patents or trademarks. So actually, can you go one slide ahead? I recall this date perfectly. It was actually my birthday in October of 2017. And I had worked with the USPTO to bring some of their trainers to the New Mexico State University campus. And I'd sent out press releases and gotten folks in the news media excited and all of that. And we had a half-day workshop where the patent examiners were able to talk directly to the community about why patents are important, but also how to go about getting a patent. And over here on the far left, a gentleman I didn't know would pop up again in my life, but right there is Charlie Thompson. About 13 people showed up, and I remember at the time thinking, it's not a great number. I wish there were more, you know. That was a town of about 100,000 people. But one of the lessons that I drew from that, now if you'll skip back, I got those two slides out of order. Charlie had an idea, and his idea was based out of the necessity that he was an RVer. Actually, he and his wife were RVers. And she had some mobility issues and was having trouble getting in and out of the RV. But what they loved more than anything was traveling across the United States, seeing all of the sites. And he came up with an idea, basically an elevator lift that would help her into the RV. We talked at that initial meeting a little bit and said, why don't you come in, we'll do some research and we'll see what's out there in that field. I was also able to connect Charlie to a free patent attorney through a federal program called Patent Pro Bono. And then that was it. I hadn't heard from Charlie in a few years. By around 2020, I got a call and Charlie was on the other end. And he said, I got a patent. Actually, I got 2 patents. And I was like, wow, good for you, Charlie. That's great news. It was really great news. So there's an academic component to this as well. There's a Patent and Trademark Resource Center Association, and many of these PTRCs are located in academic libraries, so connected with universities like this one is. So there's also some writing, some scholarship that goes into that. I worked with these 2 folks from the Marriott Library at University of Utah to build a program around indigenous intellectual property and do some thinking about that. And I had the very special privilege to actually present workshops at one of the pueblos there in New Mexico before I came up here. So my hope is that that's also possible here. OSU Extension Network spread out across the state. And we think that there's a lot of potential onboarding sites for a service like this. When we were thinking about our market, so to speak, we were thinking largely between here and Corvallis. Down the coast, then up the corridor towards Portland, and then of course over at Bend where there's a lot of innovation happening in the Cascades campus. So we drew together a group of librarians. We had 5 or 6 in the whole organization who are part of what we call community of practice. So I help them with training, and we are pushing this out currently. But as for me, as the leader of this, I'm starting right here in Newport, Oregon. So what we've done so far is we had a presentation over at the Newport Public Library workshop about patents. I recently was on a panel discussion at Cascades West Innovation Hub. That was in January. Rotary Club is going to be in February. Oh, wait. Here we are. But the question is, where to next, really? And I'm open to ideas about other groups and how to really get the word out. We've done some web development. So this is a website that you can go to and click on the Book Me link and get in touch if you need this kind of assistance. And now we're going to talk just a little bit about what we're actually doing research into. So when you talk about patents, there's a few different kinds. A lot of people are thinking strictly of a utility patent. This is something that does something new or novel. And as an example of that, this is the old iPod. Y'all remember the iPod? The coolest inventions of all time, but it had the little wheel on it, and that was a separate patent. So it did something new. It was a novel invention. There's also things called design patents. So sometimes someone's come up with an idea. It's not necessarily a novelty in the sense that it's a brand new, or it's not bringing a new utility to the market, but that it brings some sort of new design aspect to something that already sort of exists. So an example of that is the wristwatch that connects to a smartwatch, or the wristband that connects to a smartwatch. Cultivating different kinds of plants, that's also a patentable activity through plant patents since 1930. When we sit down with folks, a lot of times we end up explaining what's in a patent. And what's nice about patents is that they're very text-intensive documents. You get a lot of information about who did this, how they explain their invention. So it can be useful to people who are just working on new inventions to read what's been done. There's also information about the classification. So every patent that's produced goes into a segment of the classification, which is called cooperative patent classification. And that's also largely how we find patents, by understanding how to navigate that system and then generate keywords on top of that. The tool that we use, because we're connected to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, is what they call Patent Public Search. This is a fairly new research platform. It was developed in conjunction with Google, and it represents kind of what the patent examiner might see on the other side when they're looking for patents. So just when a patent is submitted, it goes in with a lot of prior art or citations, right? So you can present to the USPTO that you did your research, and the reason yours is novel is because it's different than all these others. And the examiner is going to check that. They have a whole office that searches for patents, and then they have a slate of things that they're going to look through and determine whether that's actually the case or not. So we use this search platform. As Diane mentioned, I'm currently the editor of the journal for the Patent and Trademark Resource Center Association. I say currently, it's the kind of thing you get once and then have forever. But yeah, we're having fun with that. So essentially, if somebody comes up with some scholarship into patent librarianship, they can submit an article to the journal, and we'll edit it, peer review it, and publish it. Now, the T in the PTRC is trademarks, and this is relevant to a lot of folks who are starting businesses. They may already have a product or they licensed something. And these are some examples of trademarks. Of course, we all recognize a lot of these: Coca-Cola, Apple Music. And the search process for trademarks is quite a bit different because the platform's different, the classification scheme is different. Those are things I studied and learned about and can help folks with. There's also different kinds of marks. Of course, we know Exxon. If you saw either of these terms, you would think of Exxon. That's a single source, right, for that product. One is called a design mark on the left, and one is called a word mark. Oftentimes, you'll see that the company has registered both for their product. But there's also other kinds of marks. There's sound marks. I think there's even smell marks. There's ways to distinguish your products according to all kinds of senses. What we're usually looking for in trademark search is the likelihood of confusion. This means that how likely is it that somebody in the marketplace looking for a particular product is going to confuse yours with another one? And so that's why we're doing these searches in the first place. There's the platform that we use to search for trademarks. And this is a registration that you can see. Again, trademarks are very text-intensive documents. You can learn a lot about a company actually by reading one. And there's also a section in the trademark search where you can see all the times that they interacted with the USPTO. If a trademark dies or goes away, then you can tell sort of why that might have happened. You can pull documentation. This becomes relevant when someone comes in and they say, I've got this idea and this brand, and then you search it and the trademark comes back, but it says dead. Well, that doesn't always mean that it's not being used. There's the ability to use it interminably, whether you register it or not. So that just warrants additional research. USPTO, for its part, does a lot to spread awareness around intellectual property, and we can bring those folks here to Newport if we want to do a workshop like we did in New Mexico. Was that under 20 minutes?
Yeah, outstanding.
This is the URL you can go to if you need to get in touch with me. It's a short URL. Just click on the booking button and it'll put you in a program that will allow you to put a meeting on my calendar. So, okay. With that, happy to answer any questions. We have time.
So like copyright, do patents have a lifespan?
Patents do. Yeah, actually both of them.
Yeah, I mean copyright, like, is it limited by the product? Is it one general thing? Is it 100 years? What are some of the general rules for lifespan of patents?
Yeah. So it's 20 years. It's from the time that you stake your flag and say, like if you did they call it, there's a process in which you tell the USPTO that this is your idea before you go for the full patent. You stake your flag in the ground at that time. So any claims you make later will relate back to that. So that starts the clock. So yeah, gives you a monopoly for that time. Trademarks, I think, are 10 years. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Well, regarding AI within intellectual property usage, are you concerned that they're going to change the patent laws?
I mean, I'm not concerned. I think that some of that IP law probably does need to change to meet the moment. One of the things we saw back in New Mexico, we were doing some research into, could you get trademarks out of ChatGPT? Because that's a kind of intellectual property that is different than copyright, but a lot of times authors are saying, look, don't take my book and put it into your tool. That's a copyright infringement. And those things are kind of tied up in courts and stuff right now. Well, it turns out you can go in and you can get trademarks out of there too. So what does that mean? So yeah, I mean, the information environment is changing rapidly. All of this is going to have to change. It is possible to use those tools to find patents, but like any of the uses for LLMs, large language models, you end up with some results that don't quite make sense. Some of them do. So, yeah.
Thank you, David. I really enjoyed your presentation, and I'm glad that you joined us in our vocational lunch, and that was part 1. So as soon as Keith lets me do part 2, we'll invite you again and come to the Guin Library. I guess, and boy, this has just been really, really good for me to have you here, because our friend Doug introduced us to Jeremy Schultz, and he's going to be an entrepreneurial mentor for my class this semester. So I'm really, really happy about that. I wanted to ask a question too. So I guess I use patents with my colleagues when I do research papers. And I was more concerned about patents, because you didn't mention any patents for drugs. Is that like a whole other issue for drug companies when they get patents, or is that kind of the same thing?
Well, everything that's patented goes into about 7 or 8 different categories. Drugs go into a category called human necessities, which includes all the medical devices and different compositions. There's also a chemistry section of the patent classification. So yeah, just like anything, it can be found. I think in every area in which there's competition, the state of the IP and how valuable it is and how the strategies and stuff, that goes well beyond my understanding of things. But yeah, medical devices and drugs go through a process like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I was with a startup company and we got a utility patent. It took us a while to get there. I was wondering, in your trainings or in your publications, do you do anything about letting people know when someone infringes upon their patent, what the steps to take?
Well, that kind of gets into a legal universe that we don't participate in. Like, since we're librarians and not attorneys, we have to kind of walk up to a line and then say that's as far as we can take it. And that line is usually is this a research question or is this a legal question? So when it comes to infringing, that's definitely in the legal universe. So we could refer folks on to attorneys and that kind of thing, but wouldn't have specific resources. Now, having said that, we have bought some books down at Guin Library. You can come check them out, and I think there's some sections in there about prosecutions and infringements and stuff.
Thank you.
David, Rotary's been working to eradicate polio around the world for more than 35 years. And our members have contributed over $2 billion in order to try to do that. And so our club does our part of it too. But we're gonna, in appreciation of you speaking and presenting today, we're gonna vaccinate 50 kids in your name.
Oh my God. Thank you. So the first thing I'm going to mention with announcements because of our presentation today is a reminder about the Oregon Regional ROV competition. So that's the underwater robot competition that our local youth get engaged in, and usually we have volunteers at that. It's not until May 9th, but I just thought because after we just had that presentation, that'd be the first thing I'd mention today. Obviously, that's another place where some of these ideas come up. You read about it, where kids come up with ideas. It's because they think differently about things and they're not as stuck in boxes as some of us get after a certain amount of time. So whether it's the Lego sponsored robotics competitions or the ones that are sponsored by Oregon State, they're all really great innovations. And again, my goal is someday to, after having to scoop the little microplastics on the beach with Guy, my goal is someday for these kids to generate some kind of little robot that'll drive along and pick up all those plastics. Because it's manpower that is the main limiting aspect of that kind of cleanup. But I wanted to give Amy a chance, if you wanted to mention seafood and wine and
Yes.
youth exchange.
Yeah, so as you know, we have greeting team signups. I sent it out to everyone today for the Seafood and Wine Festival, where we have diverted 30% of or 70% of the waste. So 70% is recycled or composted at that event. And we only have 4 slots left out of the 65. I'm so proud of everybody. Thank you. So as you know, if you have anyone that would like to volunteer, we give them $50 towards their nonprofit or community organization. But we have quite a few Rotarians that are signed up, and I'm super excited about that. And then for our youth exchange weekend, which is March 13th through the 15th, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, we are, hosting all of the district's exchange students here and,
Let me try this.
oh. Yeah, it's not working, but,
Looks good.
yeah. It was. Anyway, yeah, I think we have enough host families for everybody, but just want to remind you that Saturday night, Saturday night, is a talent show that Kathy Heater will be coordinating with the students to put on. It's always really entertaining. And you get a meal at the same time and you get to meet all the exchange students from the district. So Maureen will be part of that, and I can't wait to see what your talent is. Sometimes it's off TikTok, sometimes it's actual like a pianist who's really talented. So anyway, so that's what we're up to, and Olivia will be joining us too, as she's outbound for next year to Italy.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, and if you haven't gone to that before, there's a lot, I don't know if we had 3 or 4 different instrument players,
Yes.
but they were excellent. They were, I mean, I guess if you're gonna travel across the world and bring an instrument, something like that, you take it pretty serious, but they were very, very talented.
What's neat about the talent show is all these kids from all over the world all get along. And it makes you cry because the grown-ups all over the world can't get along, but it's really neat to see.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And so, I also wanted to do another reminder for the Crab Crack, in case anybody was still interested. It's February 15th. It's for, the benefit of the Pacific Maritime Heritage Center, our home right now for our meeting. So if you want to, you can still get tickets for that. But I think the price has gone up a little bit because you missed the early bird deadline, but, it's at the Best Western again on February 15th. I wanted to ask, didn't know if we've gotten hammered out maybe vocational lunch or still working on that maybe for this month?
Somebody wants to step up. I've not had somebody yet.
Okay.
If you do, if you're interested in the vocational lunch for the whole.
And we talked about at our board meeting a couple days ago, the Mobet's sister city visit is coming up. So I think they're gonna be here or planning on be joining us for our meeting on May 14th. And that's gonna be about 20 of them, and probably some more extra people from the city as well, maybe. So get here early. It's gonna be packed. What I'm kind of anticipating doing is trying to still use this facility. Obviously, this room is not big enough with the way it's set up, but perhaps having the meeting in the auditorium or having them do their presentation and talk, and then having more of a stand-up reception over here. Having food on the table, but not having all these big tables out, then I think we all fit pretty easy. But that's the plan, but that would be, 50 to 60 people probably at least for that meeting. And I know we've got basically our table back there. When Dana's sitting over there too, kind of working with the Mobets on that plan, as well as the other parts of that, the away mission to Mobets as well. And I also wanted to bring up that the district, our district 5110 conference is in Springfield, May 15th through 17th. So that, no, it's a ways down the road, but if you're thinking about going to that, put that on your calendars. I'll get this out in the newsletter, which will be out before our next meeting. And with all these other things too, but I just wanted to bring it up today in case anybody was interested in going to that. Excuse me, and then open it up to any other announcements.
Happy Bucks.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do Happy Bucks now too.
Well, tomorrow is Keith's and my 24th anniversary. And yeah, I can't believe he put up with me for this long. So I'm gonna multiply it times 2 and put $48 to the Lincoln County Foundation.
We'll see if Keith's happy too.
Oh, absolutely, yes, 24 years, can't believe it. Can't wait for the next 24. Ooh. Yeah, I'll do the same, we'll match it, times 2.
Thank you, Keith. We got a couple, Carla.
I have a couple of reasons to be happy. One is that in December, I haven't been here in person for a while, but in December, we had the Pacific Communities Health District Foundation, the Hospital Foundation, had our gala and auction. And some of you in this room sponsored and many of you attended. We raised $127,000 for.
Lost the audio. But anyway, the equipment that we're purchasing, orders are placed, 2 new fetal monitors for the labor and delivery department. That brings efficiency to the staff and safety to the patients. And we also have just purchased 3 new recumbent steppers for the cardiopulmonary rehab department. And so what we're trying to do is make sure that patients in this area can receive their care in this area. And we also received a private donation for a new elliptical machine, a separate donation for a new elliptical machine for cardiopulmonary rehab. So my happy bucks for that event and the support of that event, I'd like to just donate $50 to our local fund, Lincoln County Foundation. Secondly, I missed January and I turned 57 at the very end of January. And so I would like to donate $7 to my happy bucks for having another birthday.
You want to strike?
Well, the first thing is just a warning, it is winter ball week, and so if you plan to go out to dinner on Saturday, we'll have a lot of high school students doing that dress up all week. And then if you are hungry Sunday morning before the big game, our softball team is doing a fundraiser at the Elk. It's a breakfast fundraiser, and that goes to the softball team. I think it starts at 7 a.m. goes until 11. And then I will be $19 happy because tomorrow my youngest turns 19.
All right.
Raina, what time was that on Sunday?
7 to 11.
7 to 11. It's 4 hours to eat all the pancakes you can.
Yeah, I am $50 happy. I went to a leadership training thing in Corvallis, and Rick was nice enough to go with me. We roomed together, and Rick also got the reservation for our stay. We stayed at the finest Super 8 and all of that. When we arrived there, there was an ambulance and a fire department. Walk in the door, we're at the check-in thing, and they wheeled some guy out. He's on the bed, and it looked like he broke his leg or something, and he turned his ankle. There was like 6 different firemen in one bed and stuff. When we're checking out, we're walking down the hallway, and here's some kind of a chair that had wheels on. He's pushing himself along. And so I'm happy for both of us that we ended up without breaking anything. And that $50 will go, he wouldn't let me pay for half the stay, and so the $50 goes to his fundraising committee.
Real quick, I would like to do $60 towards Maureen's outbound or her trip at the end of the year. Because our daughter Jillian, who's an OSU grad in sustainability and marketing, is going to the Super Bowl this weekend because she works for the Seahawks. And it's going to be an incredible experience. She gets to fly on a chartered flight on Friday, tomorrow, and goes to about 5 different events that sometimes have some pretty big names in it. And she gets to watch the Super Bowl from the box. So, wow. And she doesn't have to work. So it's incredible. A pretty incredible experience. that she is just totally stoked for. She FaceTimed us yesterday and is just kind of out of her mind excited, so, really fun.
I have to do this. Oh, thank you.
I don't think the microphone's working anyways, Gabe.
Kyle brought up a great, I should share my great experience. It's February last year, 3 days a week. I've been going to the Samaritan Pacific Pulmonary Rehab Gym. It's fantastic, fantastically well staffed. Couldn't ask for a better place to be maintained. I know Amy is on the foundation board. I think Richard is too, and maybe some others. It's just an absolute wonder that we have a facility like that staffed by the people we have. So the other thing I was gonna do is get a man's golf cart and get a tank and I can go out and walk and stuff, but the crazy thing is, if I get a tank and go out and walk, it's $27.50 for each tank. I go to the gym and it's $40 for a month. I get 3 gyms a week or 3 tanks a week. So I think as a token, I'll give $27.50 to the Samaritan Foundation for Keith's L tank at the pulmonary rehab gym.
I'm far enough away from you, I can get away with it. But I'm $20 happy. Doesn't Brian Gardner do a good job of leading?
With that though, I gotta get moving, so I know Marcia has to get back to work. Sorry to remind you. So I asked Julia. That's okay. I know that there's well over 30, I counted 35, and at least 6 or 7 online, so really great to see everybody and have everybody here. It puts a little strain on the food, but it's also nice to run out of food rather than throw a bunch of it away. So congratulations, everybody on attendance. Is there a membership incentive?
Yes, membership incentive is for Angie Mitchell and she's not here. And so next week it'll be $15.
Another good reason to show up next week. John, social media and 50/50?
Yep, let me get up running here. This week's social media winner is, and it's $10, Mark Miranda, not here, so it'll be $15 next week. And the 50/50 is worth $75 to the winner. Anybody but Jeff Otter. So Stephanie Curtis.
All right. Any last minute announcements, anything anybody forgot and wish they'd have said? Okay. So our next regular lunch meeting is next Thursday, February 12th here at noon. And our presenter is going to be our own Guy Faust. Hope he remembers that. We had a mix up with Reader today. And he's going to be doing an update on our microplastic beach cleanup activities. And so that not only, where we're at, but what the plan is going forward. We've been missing all these days that we don't plan in the winter, but we probably could be doing. It'd be tough to schedule something now, risking bad weather.
We're gonna also watch part of our new video.
Yes, as well. Yeah, we got new video put together. That's guys trying to make it more self-sustaining, our program. Trying to open it up to other clubs. So he's been doing a whole lot of work with that. And it's a good chance, he's been sharing it with the board, but it's a great chance to share it with the rest of the memberships. It is our signature project. We all put money into it every year. So that'll be a great update. With that, I'll ask Guy if you want to lead us out with the 4-way test.
4-way test, the things we think, second do, first. Is it true? Second. Is it
Sorry.
Third.
No, good, well, a better friendship. But we have this concern.
Next.
Is it wrong? Thank you.